This video is brought to you by Slate Black Industries. For grip panels and other accessories, visit slateBlackIndustries.com. Welcome back to 9-Hole Reviews. In this episode, we're returning to the Kalash family of firearms for a look at the Meridian Defense Corp LDP, or Little Dirty Pistol. And yes, we happen to think that the acronym is a bit cooler than the long-form name, but don't get it mistaken, this is not some gimmicky blaster. So today we're exploring the ins and outs of a US-made AK that boasts a sub-16-inch barrel, ready and immediate transferability, suppressor-ready properties, and that is without a doubt one of the most controllable and manageable 30 caliber platforms we've touched so far. Since the original Kalashnikov rifle was first introduced in the late 1940s, the family of firearms has been manufactured in some variation or another by more than 25 different countries, and is known for simplicity and rugged reliability across many portions of the developing world. Referred to colloquially as AKs for the abbreviation of Avtomat Kalashnikova, variants of the firearm are commonplace throughout Western media and pop culture, but the list of US AK manufacturers and shops who have successfully introduced high-functioning Kalash rifles is actually quite slim, due, at least in part, to the cost barriers for local manufacturers to spin up to the same production standards as massive, sometimes nationalized, industries from other countries. As a result, most AKs sold in the States are actually imports, with the most desirable coming out of Russia, Bulgaria, China, and so on. Now, because these imports have various countries of origin and may be manufactured to slightly differing specs, the AK is much less of a cookie cutter or assembly block style firearm, something most US shooters have grown accustomed to thanks to the modularity of the AR-15. This lack of modularity, specifically for end users who are interested in the latest and greatest technology in optics, triggers, tunable gassing, suppressors, barrel lengths, and so on, is painfully obvious, and can act as a barrier to entry for those interested in the Kalash platform. Enter Meridian Defense and their LDP. Built on a 4140 steel, US milled receiver from Sharps Bros, the LDP immediately surpasses much of its competition that require conversion adapters to attach an AR buffer tube. This unique and clean look enables the simple attachment of an SBM4 brace. For those unfamiliar with this part, it basically allows the firearm to meet some specific legal criteria here in the US and subsequently be transferable just like any other standard class of firearm, not requiring NFA paperwork. A cool point to note was that Meridian Defense actually staked the castle nut, a common practice executed by quality AR manufacturers to keep the nut from working itself loose. The front end of the receiver is mated to an 11.5-inch 4150 CMV barrel with a front sight gas block. We tested the setup by shooting our standard 9-shot test, with the best results coming while using Hornady SXT 7.62x39 ammunition. We were able to draw a 3.3-inch 9-shot group at 100 yards using the Trijicon MRO optic, which sports a 2 MOA center dot. In some additional strings with Russian-made Bernal ammunition, we were seeing the primary clusters landing just larger than a 2-inch grouping, so we were pretty pleased with that performance. One really interesting data point was that the addition of the Dead Air Pyro Blast Shield actually caused a significant shift in point of impact. You'll note more than 3 MOA of shift, as well as a 15% shrinkage to the group size. Eager to test the firearm at distance, we stepped over to our practical accuracy course. Here we pushed the shorty setup out to 500 yards. Now, we've cleared these ranges with AKs chambered in 7.62x39 before, but not with this barrel length. Out to 350 or so, hits were readily achievable and repeatable. After 400, things were a bit more difficult. The intended use of the LDP, 350 to 400 yard repeatable hits, seems like quite a positive outcome. Both the 9-shot grouping and the firearm's performance on the distance course were undoubtedly aided by Meridian's inclusion of the ALG AK trigger. This trigger is certainly a personal favorite and cuts the pull weight down to a very light 2 pounds. This also aids on the close range side of the house, and along with the enhanced trigger, the LDP sports a tuned gas system and a K&S adjustable piston. And we wanted to see just how controllable this setup would be running at full throttle.
Go check it out. I mean, the dot rises, and I kind of had to fight it back down, but with the AK ALG trigger, you can really get going fast on this type of a gun. The dead air brake matched with the K&S piston that's tuned really allow you to just absolutely rip this target. I mean, it's pretty nutty for that 7.62 at about 12, 14 yards or so. Let's strap on the Dead Air Pyro blast shield and show how much recoil reduction is lost when you switch from an actual muzzle brake to a forward linear compensator. Woo! Let's go check it out. What we're seeing is a little bit more horizontal stringing. So that's me having to kind of adjust and track the dot because I'm not getting any help with energy being dissipated on the horizontal plane against the bore. Everything is going directly toward the target. I'm absorbing all of the energy and correcting the dot accordingly. Now again, this is not the same thing as shooting just like a bone stock AK-47 in 7.62 or one of the AK-100 series in 7.62. This is the K&S piston. It's a tuned system, and you can see that what it's really allowing me to do is just keep the gun absolutely flat on target, even without the use of a muzzle brake.
With and without the linear compensator attached, the firearm printed exceptionally well for something chambered in .30 cal. With the tuned gas system, the recoil impulse was exceptionally manageable. You'll note the inclusion of a Krebs safety, making the move from safe to fire possible without breaking the firing grip, and a full M-LOK tubular front end from SLR Rifle Works, which allows for a more ergonomic grip than is achievable on the classic AK, along with the attachment of M-LOK grip panels from Slate Black Industries as well as the Surefire Scout Light. Despite all the improved ergos gained, reloads with an AK are still reloads with an AK when it comes to the paddle release and lack of a bolt hold open function. And ultimately, what you're looking at here is the firearm with no alterations. With the exception of the optic and M-LOK accessories, this is how the LDP ships. Now, one of the major value adds to this platform is the ability for it to readily and easily take a suppressor, thanks to the concentricity of the barrel and threading as it's done by Meridian. This is something not always found on imports. So we're planning to add a suppressor to this firearm in the future and potentially even bring it back as a short barrel rifle if that's something you guys would like to see. In the end, we've really enjoyed having the opportunity to test out a modernized Western take on the Kalashnikov platform, one that presents many value adds that otherwise aren't available on the standard AK in the US market. But as you might have gathered, the pistol certainly comes with a price tag. Somewhere north of $2,000 is the buy-in for this blaster, and for some people, despite the fact that this is a custom shop gun, $2,000 plus on an AK is simply going to be too much to stomach. What we can certainly tell you is that this firearm flat out worked, and easily sits as one of the nicest .30 caliber AK platforms we've handled to date. Until next time, we'll see you on the range.
716 is Steel 96, 4 Vic, 8 packs, Redcon 1, green to green. How copy, over?
Steel 96, this is 716, roger, over. 16, Steel 91, 1 pack, green, green, over. This is 716, roger, over.
16, Steel 92, 1 Victor, 2 packs, Redcon 1, over.